Chris, what is our fifth main topic today?
This comes from Josh Nitkin. Hey, John and crew. I hope you had a great weekend. I was on Twitter, and James Gunn made a tweet celebrating the 44th anniversary of Superman the movie. A fan asked him if we will see a Superman on screen, to which Gunn's response was, quote, Superman is a huge priority, if not the biggest priority. Superman is my all-time favorite hero. Regardless if it's Cavill, this gets me really excited. Gunn gets it. What are your thoughts? Thanks and bring on the filthy.
All right, Josh, thanks a lot for sending that in. And yeah, listen, right now, the fan community is kind of sitting on a razor's edge, waiting to find out what is James Gunn and Peter Safran going to do with DC. And there are a lot of different options that are available to them. But what is clear is that something has to happen, right? The DC studio just put out a superhero film with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in it, and it didn't even make $400 million at the box office. Something's got to be done. Something has to change. The car isn't running right. Now, I know there are people out there who just say, the hashtag restore the Snyderverse people. Yeah, let's just keep doing what hasn't worked, right? And listen, and you're talking to a guy who thinks Zack Snyder's Man of Steel is like the most criminally underrated superhero film of all time. But clearly, the path has not worked. The audience, the general movie-going audience, generally doesn't trust the DC brand right now, evidenced by the fact that you had, I think, an amazing Shazam movie, did not make $400 million. That they just put out what I think is an entertaining Black Adam movie with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, could not make $400 million. I'd be very curious to find out what happens when Aquaman comes out. Like, considering the first one, I thought was very entertaining, made $1 billion at the box office, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Look, regardless of where you're at, though, it is clear that the DC brand is not living up to its potential. I think we can all agree on that statement. So something's got to be done. The report came out of the Hollywood Reporter last week that Wonder Woman 3 is canceled, the Superman plan is canceled, all this kind of stuff, and the R word started to be running around. Reboot. Time to reboot. Now, look, I'm on record that I believe the best course, not the only course of action, but the best course of action I have believed for years is fresh start. Instead of trying to continually just slap on Band-Aids and do little patchwork on this broken down car, have it towed away, get the Carfax, get a brand new car in, start from scratch, clean slate, go. Even if that means that my beloved Henry Cavill is no longer Superman. Because the universe and the story comes first. But that doesn't mean it's the only option. He has several other options available to him, whether it's in terms of soft rebooting or, using the Flash in such a way to kind of reset the universe in a way. There's a lot of different options. But when that Hollywood Reporter story came out, it looked like some people interpreted it as that meant Henry Cavill was gone. They're not going to do Superman anymore. Well, like you just mentioned, James Gunn was asked directly by a fan, are we going to see Superman in the movies any further? And James Gunn replied, yes, of course, Gunn wrote about the possibility of future Superman. Superman is a huge priority, if not the biggest priority. Superman is the biggest priority. Now, whether or not that's going to be Henry Cavill, he remains very ambiguous about that. There were some people on Twitter who were trying to spread a false rumor that there's some kind of animosity between Henry Cavill and James Gunn. James Gunn addressed that. He said, that's so weird, Gunn wrote to the person saying that there was beef going on between Cavill and Gunn.
Yeah.
Gunn wrote, that's so weird that you're so plugged in. Anyway, I just had 40 people reach out to me to say that you got kicked out of your mom's basement. So sorry, man. Anyway, making the point that, maybe you shouldn't believe everything he's saying. But he's not saying Henry Cavill will be back. Not saying he will. I'll tell you why, even though we don't have a lot of new information in this, we're going to probably, him and Peter are meeting with David Zaslav this week. And hopefully some reports are going to come out from that. We'll start to get a little bit of a picture of what's going to happen. But the one thing I love about this, and I've said this for a long time, while he's not my personal favorite superhero, Superman is the granddaddy of all superheroes. You cannot, with a straight face, build a DCEU without Superman being, if not the cornerstone, one of those pivotal posts that holds up the weight. He's got to be one of the key pillars. In an ideal world, you build it around the Trinity. You build it around Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, and then you start to give a lot of attention to some of their great auxiliary characters as well. But you cannot, with a straight face, have a DC cinematic universe, whether it's a rebooted one, whether it's a patchwork fixed up one, whatever, without Superman being front and center. You can't do it. It's laughable. He is the granddaddy of all superheroes. He is a superhero by which all other superheroes are measured. Again, I'm not saying he's my favorite one. He's not. But he's arguably the most important superhero of all time. So I love that James Gunn is saying, yeah, listen, we're not going to tell you anything about our plans, but we'll tell you this. Superman's at the center. He's not only important, he could be the most important priority we have is to get Superman up and running. Now, of course, in my little heart of hearts, my little Italian joy spot, I'm hoping, hey, make it Henry Cavill. Whether it is or isn't, I'm just glad to hear that Superman is going to be given such a high priority. Guys, we want to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. This holiday season, the best deal in wireless can only be found at Mint Mobile. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you get another 3 months for free. Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home with eSIM, while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. You guys know I've been using Mint Mobile long before this holiday deal, and I have to say it is the perfect time to switch. I have absolutely loved using Mint Mobile, and like I've told you guys many times, I am now spending less than 1/3 of what I used to spend under one of the other major mobile carriers. And now with the whole buy 3 months, get 3 months free deal, it's even better. All of their plans come with unlimited talk and text, plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. Or if you need a new device, for a limited time, get 6 months of free service when you buy a select device and plan. So guys, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months for free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Anyway, Chris, you hear about this. James Gunn is saying he's not just going to be there, not just big, he might be the priority. Number one. Does that give you any sort of insight as to which way this whole Peter Safran, James Gunn, DC Universe may or may not go? How important is it that he singled out Superman here? What do you think?
Well, I mean, all of those things about changing the power balance of the DC Universe, I think we're going back to the drawing board on that, right? And a lot of the imagery that's been tweeted out, too, that we've speculated on, ad nauseum, seeing that image from Kingdom Come and everything, it feels like Superman has been part of the plan, right? And that they're moving forward with him becoming the epicenter of this universe. Now, that's not to say we're only going to get stories revolving around Supes. We're not immediately jumping into the JLA. We are certainly not launching with Kingdom Come, because that would be bananas. There's going to be a building up to all of this. So I'm sure we will have a lovely, wonderful moment where Kal-El is featured once again in a really astounding way, not just kind of a post-credity scene or popping in for a final battle or anything like that. But I do think this is also a reminder for everyone to take a deep breath, right? It's, hey, we understand DC Comics, Superman is very, very important. So maybe let's stop with a lot of the speculation, which I know obviously we're guilty of here, but let's not act like we are in the room with James making these decisions and talking about how people have beef with each other or what's happening. It's all going to work out, and the universe as a whole is what's going to come first. And I think that's something that fans can get really behind, because they have great IP to work with that should be just shown on screen in such a tremendous way. The failure to do so far has been really disappointing, because these are some of the best comics that have ever been created. I'm hoping that we finally give them their due.
Rob, you're reading these comments here. What is your takeaway here from like James Gunn saying, hey, listen, Superman is going to be one of these pillars? How do you interpret that?
Look, I think you should take him at his word. I mean, James Gunn has earned first of all, our trust and our respect as a creative. I mean, going all the way back to Slither and Super, what he did with Guardians of the Galaxy. Suicide Squad, you can't look at its box office as any kind of indicator, because it was that day and date HBO Max.
Yeah, bullshit.
And
Thanks,
also,
Jason.
the movie itself is wonderfully fun.
Oh, it's so
watch.
good. That Suicide Squad movie is so good.
And I think the problem is, if you look at what James Gunn and Peter Safran are dealing with now, other than Joker, which made $1 billion, and other than Aquaman, there's nothing, and we're getting already another one of each. there's nothing else that I would keep. From a box office standpoint, I love Henry Cavill as Superman, but his movies that he's been in do not earn him a place at the table. They didn't make $1 billion. Not even Justice League did. So those are gone. So there is nothing from his perspective. If I was James Gunn and Peter Safran, I'm like, we have to come up with a 10-year plan. I don't retain anything. Joker and Aquaman, not our deal, even though Peter Safran produced a new Aquaman. You start from scratch. And Superman is indeed the cornerstone. Because you start, okay, we're going to build 10 years of a universe. And brick number 1 is Superman. He is the foundational character on which the skyscraper, the daily planet that we're building, that is the new DC universe. How are we going to incorporate that? Because look, Wonder Woman's tainted. Wonder Woman 84 ruined that. What, rightly or wrongly, I'm not making judgments. I'm just saying from a studio standpoint, you're in a position where everything old is new again. You're going to start from scratch because when do you get that opportunity? They were put in place to build a plan from scratch, and that allows them to go, okay, how are we going to incorporate Green Lantern? How are we going to incorporate Wonder Woman and Batman? And they can do it all with a design, which no one brought to the DC universe, ever. And this is for the very first time, you've got two creatives that were given a specific task. And I think the first thing they've done is there's a dartboard on their whatever room they're working in Aspen or whatever, they talk amongst themselves. There's probably a giant dartboard, and in the middle of that dartboard is Superman. And everything flows out from him, and they throw darts at Superman and figure out how can we make these connections and they know what they are. Whatever those connections are, they're done. And they're going to be presented this week in one hell of, I would imagine, a PowerPoint presentation. It's going to be great.
There's also something, he put out some tweets the other day, and we often reference the part of James Gunn's tweets the other day, and we said, look, regarding the Hollywood Reporter story, some things in it are true, some things in it are half true, some things we haven't decided if they're true or not yet, right? But there was another part of his tweet that we haven't really covered that I think really comes into play here, which is I've already seen online, well, I'm giving up on the DC if they don't keep going. So here's the thing, James Gunn and Peter Safran already understand they are in a situation where no matter which option they choose, there's going to be people who are unhappy. It doesn't matter. They could do nothing. It's going to make a lot of people unhappy. They could do something. It's going to make a lot of people unhappy. They could do something drastic, and it's going to make a lot of people unhappy. James Gunn said this in one of his tweets. He said, Peter and I chose to helm DC Studios, knowing that we were coming into a fractious environment, both in the stories being told and in the audience itself. And there would be an unavoidable transition period as we moved into telling a cohesive story across the film, TV, animation, and gaming worlds. Gunn wrote in a Twitter thread published on Thursday, we know that we are not going to make every single person happy every step of the way, but we can promise everything we do is done in service to the story and in service to the DC characters we know you cherish and we have cherished our whole lives. That to me, look, it's an unfortunate thing that we are in a situation where whatever they do, it's going to make a bunch of people unhappy. That tells you how mismanaged this DC universe has been up till now. But they recognize that they're in this situation and they say, look, we know we got some pain in front of us because we're going to make some decisions and there's going to be a lot of people who are unhappy. There's already a bunch of morons like doing the hashtag fire James Gunn thing already. Idiots. But the thing is, he's saying, look, we already know there's going to be people unhappy, but just understand as we go through the rough period that is to come when we make our announcement, that every decision we make is about trying to service these incredible characters. It's to service the story we are going to try to tell, not over the course of 1 or 2 movies, but over the course of the next 8 to 10 years. And to me, and also hearing that he's cognizant enough to know that Superman's got to be one of the big pillars of that, I just, every single day I'm reminded why James Gunn and Peter Safran were the right picks to put in charge of this thing. And you take anything else away from these other words he was saying?
Well, I think in a way, to me, this choice of this dual leadership role is probably one of the most exciting things that I myself, as a genre film fan, a fan of science fiction, fantasy, horror, superheroes, it's exciting to me because we have two characters, two men, two creatives. One guy was in charge of the Conjuring verse, and I've loved the Conjuring verse as a horror fan. The other guy, James Gunn, is a lifelong card-carrying, dyed-in-the-wool geek that began his film career working for Lloyd Kaufman at Troma, writes novels like The Toy Collector, makes horror films like Slither that you love, I love.
Slither's I still think it's his
makes
best
a
film.
dark
I love
indie
Slither.
film about heroics with Super, and then goes on and does Guardians of the Galaxy for Marvel. If there's one person that's one of all of us, all of you fans out there, it's James Gunn. I mean, in terms of, you think about the geeks that have made good, whether it's Guillermo del Toro, whether it's Kevin Feige, James Gunn encompasses all of that. And now he's literally been given the keys to the universe to do whatever he's going to do. After how many times does he have to give us good product already? Give him the benefit of the doubt. We should be excited. We should be walking down that rainbow bridge, looking at the bright future that DC has. Perhaps not that. It would be Marvel. They'd get sued. But you know what I mean? They'd go somewhere where there's a great sunlight out there, maybe the top of Olympus or something. The gods are smiling on us, fans, and they're going to give us something great, probably something all new. They're going to take a page from the old DC, all new, all whatever. And that's what we're going to get.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you make of these comments? It's that regardless of whether it's Henry or not, we can all hope and speculate, but that Superman is going to be one of, if not the biggest priority at DC moving forward as they create this universe that they're going to be creating. What do you think about some of the comments that James Gunn has made? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.